Revenge films.
I work at a certain company as a full-time employee, but there I had a female colleague named Karen who truly got on my nerves. Karen was always lazy and slacking on her work. Then, of course, her work would be stacked up. She wouldn't be able to handle it herself, so she would push it onto those around her. Her desk at the office was always messy because she was always snacking. And anytime she would hear a profitable idea or a funny story, she would announce it as though it was her own idea. On top of that, anytime our colleagues would bring expensive treats or cute new stationery, she would store them in her pockets as though they belonged to her. Despite doing all of that, because she was young in her 20s and she had the face of an actress, she had the bosses in the palm of her hand and was their favorite, so there was nothing we could do. In the morning, everybody was cleaning up in the office, but she would sit by herself fixing her makeup. Hey, can't you see that everyone around you is cleaning? And your desk is super messy. This is a place where we all work together. So would you mind cleaning up a bit and participating in the office cleaning with everyone?
Huh? Are you jealous? Well, even if you all try to use makeup, nothing would change anyway. Don't you know how important it is to sharpen your femininity?
Sure, that might be important, but right now is the time we all agreed to clean the office.
You're so annoying. I'm busy right now. Why don't you all clean? Your hands are empty and it suits you anyway.
She refused to lift her hand. Dealing with her was just a waste of time. So in the end, I had to just give up. At work, when we had a design project, one of the employees came up with a pretty good design. Secretly took a look at that and presented our boss with a design that was pretty much identical to that one. Hey, that was Jessica's design!
Excuse me, don't you think that's rude? I'm the one that turned it in first, so can you not accuse me of stealing any ideas?
What are you saying? Sir, this is Jessica's design. She spent a lot of time and effort into coming up with this. I tried to tell my boss, but...
But Karen brought it to me first. So are you sure that Jessica wasn't the one that actually stole it?
Why is it ending up like this? That's not right.
What is with that attitude? Are you talking back to your boss?
This was our everyday grievance. But this was work, and we couldn't let it continue. I tried to speak up multiple times, but they just laughed and said it was an old hag's jealousy. I didn't let it deter me, so I gathered evidence as well as multiple witnesses to try to make an appeal, but...
Just because Karen is pretty doesn't mean you can waste your time doing shady things like this. Aren't you embarrassed?
Instead, we were the ones who got in trouble. Karen was watching all of this from the shadows and giggling. Things like this continued, so some of my colleagues said, I don't want to work in an office like this, so I'm going to resign. A few people ended up leaving. I had to work for my family, and my office was close to both my house and my child's preschool, so I couldn't quit. But the people quitting also meant that each person's workload would only increase. I tried to talk to Karen. We really need you to at least your own job. Why are you coming here every day? You're getting a salary, so please do your work. But then she would laugh in my face.
But why? You guys are going to do my work for me anyways, right? That's why I'm coming here every day.
I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to speak directly to my boss, Mr. Smith's boss, about it. But I couldn't get my other colleagues involved, because going over there, my boss, Mr. Smith, had to speak to his boss, meant that I would be making Mr. Smith my enemy. If nothing were to change, except gaining Mr. Smith's anger and distrust, there was a high chance of me losing my job. Hey, I really think you should think this over. We're all just doing our best to deal with it. We really don't want you to get fired. But we're just going to deal with this forever. That's not right. Karen doesn't do any work whatsoever, and every day she gets paid her full salary. And even though we're all working so hard, she even takes our ideas and then laughs at us. And our boss won't even help us, so it's unfair. Kelly, all right. Well, then I will go to you too.
Yeah, me too. At this point, I'm ready to talk to the CEO about this.
We gathered the evidence that we first showed Mr. Smith, and a group of female employees got together and brought the case to Mr. Smith's boss. We were worried that we would get kicked out of the office, but instead, Mr. Smith's boss, Mr. Harris, listened intently to our concerns.
I see. I had no idea. First of all, I would like to apologize. That should never happen in the workplace. And I never imagined that you all were dealing with something so awful. And second, I will go speak to the female employees who resigned and personally apologize. I'd like to hear their real reasoning behind quitting. And third, of course, I will promise you that we will get to the bottom of this.
We all let out a sigh of happiness and relief. I'm so glad that we mustered up the courage for this. Yes, thank you very much.
No, once again, I sincerely apologize for this. I know that you guys in the planning department are always bringing ideas and designs that surprise me, and it's a company's duty to protect great employees like that.
All this time, Mr. Smith had been treating me like an old hag, and our designs that we worked so hard on were stolen so quickly. But our hard work was finally being recognized, and there were some employees who were crying tears of happiness. After that, we were in touch with Mr. Harris frequently, and some time had passed. And then finally, there was an official letter announcing Karen and Mr. Smith's punishment from the company. Karen barely did any work, so it was a given. She was transferred from the planning department to the storage room that was deep in the corner of the first floor. When we saw the official announcement on the board,
Why the hell should I work in the storage or whatever? This has to be a joke!
and threw a tantrum. The storage unit was well known as a department where people who were deemed useless or problematic were thrown into, and most people wouldn't last a few months before resigning. That's where Karen was being transferred to. She was also given a salary deduction and would only be earning 1/3 of what she was receiving now. What was even more shocking was Mr. Smith. After we went to Mr. Harris about this, apparently the HR department opened an investigation. It turns out that Mr. Smith would lower the ratings of subordinates that he didn't like, which would affect their salary. He would also lightly stalk young female employees that he took a liking to, and tell them that he had personal information about them, so they better do as he says and intimidate them. At that point, it became a police matter, so not only was he fired, he was also arrested. Apparently, Karen was Mr. Smith's type, and because he wanted her to like him, that's why he would never listen to us and always take her side. After laughing at us so many times, Mr. Smith sulked out of the office with a completely pale face, looking like a ghost. All that would be waiting for him was a hefty cost of damages for the female employees who were victims of his, as well as for deciding salaries based on personal preference. After the 2 problem children of the planning department were disposed of, at the same time, it was like day and night how peaceful the office became. It goes without saying that work became a lot easier. We no longer have to worry about our ideas getting stolen or having extra work dumped onto us. Everybody became way more efficient, and the ratings of the planning department skyrocketed at once. Also, perhaps thanks to Mr. Harris going around and personally apologizing, the female employees who had previously quit slowly started to come back. In there were some people who had small children, but were having trouble finding their next job. In an incredibly difficult situation, they still weren't able to go to work and were really struggling. They all said the same thing, that they were really happy to hear from Mr. Harris. After that, as for Karen, she was shipped off to a small dark storage department and didn't even last a few months. She ended up explaining,
I can't work in a place like this! I quit!
and resigned. But her reputation had already spread to the other companies, and even though she was very confident that she would find her next job easily, one of my colleagues said that she was crying every day, unable to get anyone to hire her. She was getting what she deserves. Plus, if she goes into a new company, she's going to be a new employee starting at the bottom, so surely she wouldn't be able to act like she was before. From how much she was slacking off until now, I'm sure karma has been building up, and she's only going to experience hell from here. But I think it's a very fitting place for her to be.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.